Listen to me carefully. This is not just another motivational speech. This is a wake-up call. This is a reset for your entire existence. There was a time when you begged for his love, when you twisted yourself into someone you weren't, just to be chosen. But let's be real. He never chose you. He entertained you. He kept you on standby. He made you feel like a placeholder until something better came along. And that is where everything changes. A man who treated you like an option never truly saw your worth. He only saw what you could do for him, how you fit into his life, how you filled the empty spaces when he was bored, lonely, or in need of validation. He didn't cherish you. He used you. And the worst part? He made you believe that was love. You gave him your time, your energy, your loyalty. You bent over backward to accommodate his needs, always hoping he'd wake up one day and realize that you were the one. But he never did. Because in his mind, you weren't his priority. You were just a convenience. Something to enjoy when it suited him, something to push aside when it didn't. He knew you cared. He felt your devotion. He knew without a doubt that you would answer his late-night texts, that you would rearrange your plans just to see him, that you would tolerate the mixed signals, the excuses, the disappearing acts, because he conditioned you to believe that even his bare minimum was better than nothing, and you accepted it, not because you were weak, but because you loved him. You saw the potential. You saw the good in him. You held on to every breadcrumb he gave you, convincing yourself that one day those crumbs would turn into a feast, but they never did. Because a man who sees you as an option will never give you his all. He didn't prioritize you because he didn't have to. He knew you would always be there. He knew that no matter how many times he ignored your feelings, no matter how many times he left you questioning your worth, you would still show up, you would still try, you would still hope, and that gave him all the power. You see, men like him don't fear losing a good woman when she's available at his convenience. He only fears losing her when she's gone, when she finally wakes up and realizes that she deserves more. And that is where everything changes. Because the second you recognize that you were never his priority, you start to see the truth. The truth that he was never confused. He chose to treat you this way. The truth that his lack of effort was not an accident, it was a decision. The truth that love doesn't look like inconsistency, like half-hearted apologies, like broken promises and unanswered messages. Love is clarity. Love is certainty. Love is commitment. And a man who truly values you will never make you question your place in his life. He will never put you in a position where you have to compete for his time, his affection, or his attention. Because when a man truly wants you, he makes sure you know it. But he didn't. Instead, he kept you in a state of emotional limbo, never fully committing, but never fully letting go. He fed you just enough to keep you attached, but never enough to make you feel secure. He wanted the benefits of having you in his life, but not the responsibility of choosing you. And that is not love. That is manipulation. He wanted you to doubt yourself, to question whether you were asking for too much, to believe that maybe if you were more patient, more understanding, less emotional, he would finally step up. But he never did, because he never had to. He made you feel like you were replaceable, like you were just one of many options, like your presence was nothing special. And the sad part is, you started to believe it. You started to wonder if maybe you were the problem, if maybe you weren't enough. But let me tell you something. That was never the case. A man who sees a woman as an option will always act accordingly. He will take her kindness for granted. He will take advantage of her patience. He will assume she will always be there, no matter how many times he disappoints her. And he will only realize what he had when it's gone, when she finally walks away, when she stops answering his calls, when she stops caring. That is when the regret sets in. Not because he loves her, but because he lost control. Because he lost the woman who once would have done anything for him. Because he lost the comfort of knowing that no matter what he did, she would always stay. But by then it's too late. Because once a woman realizes that she was never the problem, once she sees herself clearly, she becomes unstoppable. She stops waiting. She stops wishing. She stops holding space for a man who never deserved her in the first place. And that is the moment she reclaims her power. He had his chance. He had countless opportunities to love you, to choose you, to appreciate you, and he wasted them, not because he didn't know your worth, but because he never planned on giving you what you deserved. And that is all the closure you will ever need. When you walk away, everything shifts. The entire dynamic that once kept you stuck, questioning yourself, doubting your worth, it collapses in an instant. Because for the first time, he feels it. He feels what it's like to not have you there, to not have access to your energy, your kindness, your unwavering presence. And that's when reality punches him in the face. You see, as long as you were available, as long as you were chasing, waiting, hoping, he had the upper hand. He knew he could come and go as he pleased. He knew he could give you the bare minimum, disappear for days, and still find you right where he left you. That's why he never valued you. That's why he took you for granted. Because there were no consequences for his behavior. But the moment you walk away, the moment you stop explaining, stop begging, stop waiting for him to get it together, that's when the game flips. That's when he starts to feel the void. And make no mistake, it will hit him harder than he ever expected. Because here's what men don't realize. A woman's energy is powerful. It is nurturing, healing, transformative. When she loves, she gives. She pours into a man. She believes in him. She supports him in ways that elevate his entire life. And he felt that even if he never acknowledged it. Even if he acted like he didn't need it. But now it's gone. Now he has to sit with himself without the warmth of your presence, without the comfort of knowing you'll always be there. Now he has to deal with the silence. And that silence will be louder than anything he's ever experienced. At first, he won't believe it. He'll assume you're just mad, just giving him the silent treatment, just waiting for him to come back and say the right words to pull you back in. He'll test the waters. He'll send a casual text, a meaningless "I miss you," expecting you to jump at the chance to respond. But this time, you don't. And that's when it hits him. You're really gone. You're not playing a game. You're not waiting. You're not hoping for his love anymore. You've taken your power back. And for the first time, he feels what it's like to be on the other side. He feels the emptiness. He feels the absence of your energy, the absence of your love, the absence of the woman who once made his life easier, better, fuller. That's when the panic sets in. That's when the regret starts creeping into his mind like a slow, torturous realization. He starts remembering. He starts replaying every moment, every time he ignored you, dismissed your feelings, took advantage of your patience. And suddenly, he's haunted by the fact that he had something rare and he threw it away. Because here's what men don't understand until it's too late. A woman who loves deeply will give until she has nothing left. But the moment she realizes she's giving to someone who doesn't deserve it, she will never look at him the same way again. That switch, it's irreversible. And now he has to live with that. He will try to reach out. He will try to test your boundaries to see if there's still a piece of you that wants him back. But what he doesn't realize is that you've changed. You've seen the truth. You've felt the exhaustion of pouring into someone who never poured back into you, and you're done. And nothing scares a man more than a woman who no longer needs him. Nothing terrifies him more than the realization that you are no longer waiting, no longer checking your phone, no longer seeking his approval. Because now you've turned that energy inward. Now you're building yourself up. Now you're becoming the woman he never thought you'd be. The woman who no longer gives a damn about him. And that's the moment he truly feels it. That's when he understands that he didn't just lose a woman. He lost the woman. The one who saw him when no one else did. The one who believed in him even when he gave her every reason not to. The one who would have stood by his side through anything. If only he had chosen her. But he didn't. And now it's too late. Because the woman he took for granted is never coming back. The woman who once begged for his love has vanished. In her place stands someone unshakable, untouchable, unavailable. And that is a pain no man is prepared to feel. Because today, right here, right now, you become something he never saw coming. You become the one thing that terrifies men who take women for granted. A woman who no longer cares. The moment you walk away, the moment you withdraw your energy, he will feel it like a shock to his system. He never thought this day would come. He never imagined that the woman who once moved mountains for him, the woman who forgave, who stayed, who believed in him, despite all the pain he caused, would finally be done. But now, the silence is deafening, the absence of your energy is suffocating, and for the first time he feels the loss. He thought he had time. He thought you would always be there. He thought no matter how much he neglected you, ignored your needs, took you for granted, you would never actually leave. Because you loved him. Because you gave him chance after chance. Excused his behavior, accepted the excuses, and convinced yourself that one day, he would wake up and realize what he had in you. But that day never came, and now you are gone. At first, he won't even recognize the feeling. He won't know why he's suddenly restless, why he's checking his phone more than usual, why the things that once distracted him don't feel the same. He won't understand why he suddenly wants to hear your voice, see your name pop up, feel the warmth of your presence. But as the days go by, the truth will sink in. He lost you. And that realization will hit him in ways he never expected, because what he didn't see, what he never acknowledged, was how much of his life you held together. The way you supported him emotionally, the way you believed in him when he didn't even believe in himself, the way you were always there, steady, reliable, ready to love him even when he was impossible to love. And now all of that is gone. He took you for granted for so long that he never prepared himself for what life would feel like without you in it. He will remember the moments that seemed small at the time but now feel massive. The way you checked on him when no one else did. The way you made sure he ate when he was too caught up in his own world to take care of himself. The way you listened to his dreams, encouraged his ambitions, gave him the kind of emotional support he didn't even know he needed. And now there is a void he never thought he'd have to face. He will go looking for you in other women. He will seek comfort in distractions, in meaningless conversations, in temporary connections, but none of them will feel like you. Because what you gave was real. What you gave was once in a lifetime, and deep down he will start to realize that he will never find another you. And that's when the regret sets in. The deep, gut-wrenching, soul-crushing regret. Because now he understands what he had, now he sees it with perfect clarity, but it's too late. Because you are no longer that woman. The version of you that would have taken him back, that would have answered the late-night calls, that would have been willing to forgive, no longer exists. You have evolved. You have grown. You have stepped into your power, and the door that was once open to him is now locked, sealed, and thrown away. He will tell himself it's not real at first, that you're just trying to teach him a lesson, that you'll come back when you've had time to cool off. He will send the texts, the I miss you messages, the weak attempts to pull you back in, but you won't respond the way he expects. You won't be the woman who melts at his words, who rushes back at the first sign of remorse. And that is when the panic truly begins. Because now he's not just feeling the loss, he's feeling powerless. He can't manipulate his way back in. He can't use the same tired apologies, the same empty promises. He knows that whatever spell he once had over you has been broken, shattered beyond repair. And that is a pain he never saw coming. He will wonder if there's still a chance. He will replay the past over and over, searching for the moment he lost you completely. He will think about the things he should have done differently, the moments he should have appreciated, the times he should have held you closer instead of pushing you away. But regret doesn't bring back what's gone, and now he has to live with the fact that he had something irreplaceable and he let it slip through his fingers. He will never admit it to you, but he will feel it in every quiet moment, in every night that feels emptier than it should, and every time he reaches for his phone only to realize there's no one to call who truly understands him like you did. He will feel it when he sees you moving on, glowing without him, living a life that no longer includes him, and that is when the pain will be unbearable, because he will finally understand what you knew all along. He had a choice. He had every opportunity to love you the way you deserved, and he didn't. And now he has to feel exactly what he put you through. The second you pull back your energy, the second you stop pouring into him, something inside him shifts. He might not realize it at first. He might go about his day as if nothing happened, assuming you'll always be there, assuming the cycle will repeat just like it always has. But deep down, something feels off. Something feels different, and that difference is the absence of you. For so long, he took your energy for granted. He didn't even recognize how much he was feeding off of it, how much you nurtured his soul, how much of his confidence came from the way you believed in him, supported him, gave him unconditional love, even when he didn't deserve it. He thought you were just there, like the sun rising every morning, constant, unwavering, always shining, no matter how many times he ignored its warmth. But now he feels the cold. You see, men like him don't realize the power of a woman's energy until she takes it away. They don't understand how much of their world is held together by the presence of someone who truly sees them. It's not just the good morning texts, the phone calls, the late night conversations. It's the way you made him feel, the way you made him feel like he was important, like he was worthy, like he was capable of becoming more. But when that energy is gone, when the well runs dry, he starts to feel the emptiness in ways he never anticipated. At first, he thinks it's temporary. He assumes you're just upset, just playing hard to get, just waiting for him to say the right thing so everything can go back to normal. But it doesn't. The silence stretches longer than he expected. The coldness in your voice when you finally do speak to him feels foreign, unfamiliar, almost cruel. He doesn't understand it. He doesn't know how to process the fact that the warmth you once had for him has started to fade, and it terrifies him. Because here's what he never realized. Energy is not just presence. Energy is a connection. It's what makes a person feel alive, feel seen, feel valued. And when you were in his life, even in the smallest ways, your energy was lifting him up. You were feeding parts of his soul he didn't even know were starving. But now those parts are empty. And the more he tries to fill them with distractions, the more he realizes nothing can compare. He will try to replace you. He will look for your energy in other women, in other conversations, in temporary thrills that give him a false sense of validation. But no matter how hard he tries, he will keep coming up short. Because what you gave him wasn't surface level. It wasn't just physical attraction. It wasn't just companionship. It was depth. It was soul. It was something that cannot be replicated. He will feel the weight of every moment he dismissed you, every time he ignored your feelings, every time he made you question your worth. He will feel it when he reaches for his phone and stops himself, because he knows the version of you that once responded within seconds no longer exists. He will feel it when he's surrounded by people but still feels alone, because the one person who truly understood him has finally stopped trying. This is the pain that men are never prepared for, the pain of losing a woman's energy, the pain of realizing that the person who once saw the best in them has now detached. And detachment, that is the real heartbreak, not anger, not sadness, detachment. When a woman no longer cares, no longer reacts, no longer feels anything towards him, that is when he truly begins to suffer. He will try to fight it. He will tell himself he doesn't care, that he can move on, that it doesn't affect him. But the nights will prove him wrong. The silence will eat at him. The moments when he expects you to still be there, those will be the moments that break him. And the worst part? There is nothing he can do about it, because you have already given him every chance. You have already sacrificed enough of yourself. And now you have reclaimed your energy. And that is the moment he realizes he lost something he will never get back. The moment you shift your energy, the moment you stop chasing, stop waiting, stop giving, everything in his world begins to change. He doesn't notice it at first. He's too used to the pattern, too used to you being there, too used to the comfort of knowing you will always try, always fight, always believe in him. But what he doesn't realize is that your silence is not a reaction. It's a decision that will alter everything he once believed about you, about himself, about what he thought was guaranteed, because for so long he treated you like an option, like something he could pick up and put down whenever it was convenient for him. He tested your patience, your loyalty, your love, because he never truly thought you would walk away. And why would he? You had given him so many chances before. You had endured the disrespect, the inconsistency, the empty promises. You had accepted less than you deserved just to keep him close. And he assumed you would always do that. But this time, something is different. This time your energy has changed. And now he feels it in ways he never expected. At first, he tries to convince himself that nothing is wrong. He assumes you're just upset, just going through a phase, just waiting for him to say the right words to bring you back. He tells himself, you're still the same woman who loved him unconditionally, the same woman who would always forgive, always understand, always hold space for him no matter how much he took you for granted. But the more time passes, the more the truth becomes undeniable. You are not the same. You do not respond the same. You do not feel the same. And that terrifies him more than anything, because he starts to realize that he no longer has access to you, that the version of you that once tolerated his inconsistency no longer exists. that the power he once had over your emotions has faded, and with it his ability to control the situation. He reaches out, but your responses are different now, colder, detached, emotionless. He tries to provoke a reaction, but there is nothing left for him to trigger, and that's when he begins to panic. He replays every moment in his mind, searching for the turning point, the moment he pushed you too far, the moment you finally decided that loving him was no longer worth the pain. He remembers every unanswered text, every time he made you feel like you weren't enough, every time he left you waiting while he entertained other options. And for the first time, he feels the weight of his own choices, the weight of every mistake, every careless word, every moment he took you for granted. But regret comes too late. Because you are no longer sitting in the pain he created. You are no longer waiting for an apology, for closure, for him to suddenly wake up and realize your worth. You have freed yourself from the cycle. And now he is the one who has to suffer. He tries to replace you. He thinks that if he can find someone else, someone new, someone who doesn't know his patterns, he can escape the feeling of loss. But no matter how many distractions he finds, nothing compares. Because it's not just about missing you, it's about missing the version of himself that he was when he had your love. The version that felt important, admired, desired. The version that felt whole because he was constantly absorbing your energy. But now that source is gone, and he is left with nothing but the emptiness he tried so hard to ignore. He will watch you grow. He will see you moving on, stepping into your power, glowing in ways he never allowed you to before. And that will be the final blow, because while he is stuck in his own regret, stuck in his own cycle of repeating the same mistakes, you have become someone untouchable, someone he can no longer reach, no longer affect, no longer manipulate. And in that moment, he will finally understand what you knew all along. You were never the one who needed him. He was the one who needed you. But now he has to live with the fact that he lost you forever. He thought you would always be there. He thought no matter how many times he ignored you, dismissed your feelings, or made you question your worth, you would never leave. He believed he could always come back, that no matter how much he pulled away, you would still be waiting, still hoping, still holding on to the idea of what could be. But what he didn't see, what he refused to see, was that every time he made you feel like you were not enough, a piece of you started slipping away. Slowly, quietly, without him even noticing, you were detaching. And now, the version of you that once fought for him, once believed in him, once gave everything just to be seen by him, no longer exists. At first, he doesn't believe it. He thinks it's just another one of the cycles, another moment where you're pulling away just to see if he cares. He assumes he can come back, say the right words, remind you of the history, and everything will return to the way it was. He's so used to having that power, so used to you always being the one to break first, to reach out, to fight for the connection, that he doesn't even consider the possibility that this time it's different. But the more time passes, the more he starts to realize that something has changed. Your energy is gone. Your warmth is gone. The love that once made him feel safe, secure, important, it's gone. And suddenly, he's the one who feels lost. He won't admit it at first. He'll pretend it doesn't bother him. He'll act like he's fine, like he doesn't care, like he's unbothered by your silence. But late at night, when the distractions fade, when he's alone with his thoughts, the truth will creep in. And the truth is this: he is starting to feel what you felt. He is starting to understand what it means to be ignored, to be treated like an option, to feel like you are not a priority. And it burns in a way he never expected. He remembers the times you reached out, the times you tried to communicate, the times you poured your heart out, just hoping for some kind of validation, some kind of effort, some kind of sign that you mattered. And now he's the one reaching out, searching for the smallest sign that you still care. He tells himself you're just busy, that you'll respond eventually, that you're just playing hard to get. But deep down, there's a sinking feeling in his chest, a feeling he can't ignore. This time, you're not coming back. He tries to distract himself. He goes out, surrounds himself with people, tries to find comfort in meaningless conversations, in empty connections, in temporary fixes. But nothing fills the void, because the void isn't just about missing you. It's about missing what he felt when he was around you. And now he is forced to face the truth. The truth that he had something rare, something powerful, something real, and he let it slip through his fingers. The regret starts to consume him. He replays the moments he should have done things differently, the times he should have chosen you, the times he should have fought instead of letting you fight alone. He wonders if there's still a chance, if there's still a way to fix what he broke. But with every unanswered message, with every moment of silence, it becomes clearer and clearer he has lost you in a way that is permanent. And that is the moment he finally understands the pain he put you through. That is the moment he feels what it's like to want someone who no longer wants you, to care for someone who has stopped caring, to reach out only to be met with coldness, distance, indifference. That is the moment he realizes he has become exactly what he made you feel. An afterthought, an option, a regret. But the difference is, while you healed, while you grew, while you transformed into someone stronger, wiser, and more powerful than before, he is still stuck in the mess he created. And now, he is the one who has to live with the pain of losing you forever. He never thought he would feel this. He never believed for a second that the tables could turn, that the power dynamic could shift, that the woman who once held onto him so tightly could suddenly be the one slipping away. He never imagined that one day he would be the one staring at his phone, waiting for a message that will never come, the one feeling the weight of silence, the one realizing that the very thing he took for granted was the one thing keeping him from falling apart. He thought he was untouchable. He thought he had all the time in the world. He thought no matter how many times he let you down, you would still be there, still fighting, still holding on to hope. But now he is the one drowning. He doesn't understand it at first. He tells himself he's fine, that he doesn't need you, that this is just temporary. He convinces himself that you're just trying to prove a point, that you're playing some kind of game, that you'll eventually come back just like you always did. But this time is different. This time, your energy is gone. This time, your absence is not just a temporary withdrawal, it's a statement, a declaration that you've finally chosen yourself over him. And that is something he never prepared for. At first, he distracts himself. He fills the silence with noise, surrounds himself with people, tries to keep himself busy so he doesn't have to sit with the truth. He goes out, laughs too loudly, posts pictures pretending he's unbothered, hoping that if he can convince the world he doesn't care, maybe he can convince himself too. But the moment the world goes quiet, the second he's alone with his thoughts, the weight of it all crashes down on him like a tidal wave. Because no matter how much he tries to run, no matter how many distractions he chases, nothing feels the same. He reaches for his phone out of habit, expecting to see your name, expecting to feel that sense of reassurance, that comfort, that warmth that he never realized was coming from you this entire time. But the messages aren't there. The notifications never come. And suddenly, the silence that once felt like power now feels like punishment. He thought ignoring you gave him control. He thought keeping you at a distance made him stronger. But now the distance is suffocating him. Now the control he thought he had has turned into chains wrapped around his own heart, dragging him into a reality he never thought he'd have to face. He replays every moment in his head, every missed call, every ignored message. Every time he made you feel like you were an option, like your love was something he could pick up and put down whenever it was convenient for him. He remembers the times you begged for his attention, the times you fought for his effort, the times you cried yourself to sleep, wondering why you weren't enough for him to choose you fully. And now, he understands what that feels like. Because now he is the one waiting. Now he's the one questioning his worth. Now he's the one being met with silence. At first he refuses to accept it. He tells himself you're just being stubborn, that eventually you'll break, that eventually you'll come running back like you always did. He tries to test you, sends messages just to see if you'll respond, makes excuses to reach out, tries to spark something, anything, to prove to himself that he still has a grip on you. But when you don't respond, when your replies are cold, distant, uninterested, something inside him starts to crack. The ego that once made him feel untouchable now feels like a prison, trapping him in a cycle of regret that he can't escape. He starts watching you more closely, seeing how you move without him, seeing the way you carry yourself, the way your energy has shifted, the way your presence has changed. And it scares him, because for the first time he sees a version of you that is completely unaffected by him, a version that is glowing, thriving, stronger than ever. A version that is no longer begging, no longer waiting, no longer making herself small just to fit into his life. And that is when the regret becomes unbearable, because now he understands. Now he sees what he refused to see before. That you were never asking for too much, he was giving too little. That you were never too emotional, too needy, too demanding. You were simply asking to be treated with the love and respect you deserved. That you were never the problem, he was. And now he has to live with the reality that he lost something irreplaceable. He will try to undo it. He will try to come back, try to remind you of the good times, try to say all the words he should have said before. He will try to convince you that he's changed, that he sees it now, that he understands everything he did wrong. But you are not the same woman he left behind. You are not the same woman who once held on to his every word, who once believed in his potential more than his actions. You have grown past him, past the pain, past the version of yourself that once thought his love was the prize. And that is what will break him the most. Because he will finally realize that while he was treating you like an option, you were the real prize. While he was making you feel like you weren't enough, you were always more than enough. And now he has to sit with the truth that he lost you, not because you weren't willing to fight for him, not because you didn't love him enough, not because you weren't worthy, but because he wasn't worthy of you. And now there is nothing left for him to do but feel exactly what he made you feel. He never thought it would come to this. He never thought the day would come when you would wake up and no longer feel the pull, no longer feel the need to explain, to fight, to prove your worth. He believed he could push you to the edge, that he could test your patience, that he could make you feel small and still keep you wrapped around his finger. He thought he had time. He thought you would always be there, but time ran out, and now the same silence he once weaponized against you has become the silence that haunts him. He checks his phone instinctively, expecting your name to appear, expecting the same long messages, the same emotional pleas, the same effort you used to pour into him like he was the only thing that mattered. But nothing comes. He scrolls through old conversations, rereads the messages he once ignored, the words he barely acknowledged, the love he never fully appreciated. He never realized how much of his validation came from the way you fought for him, from the way you refused to give up, from the way you saw something in him even when he gave you every reason to walk away. But now, there's nothing left to fight for, because you are done fighting for someone who never fought for you. He looks at the world around him and suddenly everything feels dull. The attention from other women doesn't hit the same. The distractions he once used to avoid dealing with his emotions feel empty, forced, meaningless. He thought he could replace you, thought he could find another version of you, thought he could move on just as easily as he assumed you would. But now, reality is hitting him like a storm he wasn't prepared for, because you were never replaceable. You were never just another option. You were the exception. The one who truly saw him, the one who poured into him, the one who gave him a love so rare that he didn't even recognize its value until it was gone. Regret seeps into his bones like poison. He remembers the moments when you stood in front of him, tears in your eyes, asking him to meet you halfway. He remembers the times you tried to tell him what you needed, the times you softened your own voice just so he wouldn't feel overwhelmed, the times you hid your pain just to make him feel comfortable. And now, the weight of every dismissed feeling, every ignored message, every broken promise is suffocating him. He thought he was winning when he kept you at a distance, thought he was in control when he made you question yourself, when he had you second-guessing your worth. But now he is the one who feels small. Now he is the one drowning in the pain he created. He sees you moving differently now. He sees you glowing, rising, stepping into a version of yourself that no longer seeks his approval, no longer waits for his validation, no longer makes excuses for his lack of effort. He watches from a distance, realizing that the woman he took for granted is no longer available to him. And that realization cuts deeper than he ever thought possible, because now he understands that he didn't just lose you, he lost access to a love that was pure, a love that was unconditional, a love that was willing to withstand storms he wasn't even brave enough to face. He will try to reach out, he will test the waters, hoping for even the smallest reaction, hoping for proof that he still holds a place in your heart. But the version of you that once needed closure, once needed answers, once needed him, no longer exists. You no longer seek an apology that will never be enough. You no longer crave the validation of someone who only valued you when he felt like it. You no longer allow yourself to be someone's maybe, when you were always meant to be someone's certainty. And that is the moment he finally understands he has lost you forever. There is no greater pain than realizing you were loved fully and completely by someone, and you threw it away. Thinking that love would always wait for you. He thought he had time, but time ran out. He thought you would always chase him, but your legs got tired. He thought he could do the bare minimum and still have you. But now, he sees you giving your energy to people who appreciate it. People who don't make you beg for effort. People who recognize your worth without needing to lose you first. And that is the pain he now has to live with. Because now, he is the one who watches from the outside. He is the one who waits for messages that never come, who looks at pictures of you smiling, and realizes that happiness no longer has anything to do with him. He is the one haunted by memories of what could have been, the one regretting every time he made you feel unwanted, the one finally understanding that in trying to keep his options open, he lost the only option that truly mattered. And now, while you thrive, while you step into your power, while you become everything he was too blind to appreciate, he is the one left behind in the pain he once made you feel.